Council.
Good Monday morning, Jonesboro. This is meteorologist Tim Root with your KLEK 102.5 FM weather. It'll be partly to mostly sunny today in the mid-50s, a northeast wind 5 to 10. Mostly clear overnight, about 32 to 38, light winds expected. Tuesday, mostly sunny, about 55 to 60. And Wednesday, a chance of rain showers, mostly cloudy, near 60. And Wednesday is the first day of spring. Officially, it arrives at 2:58 in the afternoon. Your life, your music, we're KLEK 102.5 FM.
From Feature Story News in Washington, I'm Giles Gibson. The Speaker of the UK's House of Commons says the British government can't bring its Brexit deal back for another vote unless it's significantly changed. Police say they've arrested a man following a fatal shooting in the Dutch city of Utrecht that left 3 people dead. And US officials are reportedly investigating the development of Boeing's 737 MAX jets after last week's Ethiopian Airlines crash.
It's 9:01.
KLEK LP Jonesboro, the voice of Arkansas Minority Advocacy Council. It's now time for Community Conversations, a program focusing on the people working to make the Jonesboro community a better place, while offering viewpoints from all sides of the issues. The views expressed in this program are those of the participants and do not necessarily reflect the views of KLEK 102.5 FM, the voice of Arkansas Minority Advocacy Council, or our underwriters or sponsors.
Good morning, everyone, and happy Tuesday to you. I hope that you're having a great start to your day. You're tuned in to Community Conversations on KLEK 102.5 FM. I'm your host, Quabila Jones, and my special guest today is Dr. Carl Abraham, MD, from the NYIT College of Osteopathic Medicine on the campus of Arkansas State University. So good morning to you, Doctor.
Good morning, Quabila. Thank you so much for having me.
Well, thank you for joining us. And today we're going to be talking about something that you specialize in, which is infectious diseases. And I hope I don't get too tongue-tied saying that today. All right. And so before we get into our topic of the day, can you please give us some background about yourself? How did you get into this field, and how long have you been with been in Arkansas, rather, or in NYIT?
Sure. I'll try not to make it too long. I started doing research in infectious diseases while I was in high school. I was lucky enough to get an internship at a hospital in New York City. And while I was between college and medical school, doing some other things, playing some music, I also worked in a research laboratory for 4 years.
Okay.
He was a pediatric infectious disease specialist who was just beginning research in HIV. This was back in the 80s.
Okay.
Those two experiences directed me toward infectious diseases, and I went to school in New York, got my bachelor's on Long Island at Stony Brook, and went to Tel Aviv to get my medical degree.
Okay.
And trained at Beth Israel Medical Center in New York City for internal medicine and infectious diseases. I graduated in 2001 and came here. So I've been here for about 18 years.
Wow,
Yeah.
That's amazing. So have you worked in any of the local hospitals in Jonesboro, maybe in surrounding areas?
Sure. I've worked in both hospitals, and I started a private practice in 2006 that became the largest infectious diseases practice in Northeast Arkansas.
And so during your practice, and I'm trying to pull up the questions, during your practice, I'm sure you have seen a lot of issues, diseases, things come across your desk.
I'm actually a general infectious disease practitioner, so I've seen infections of every part of the body. I've seen infections in all types of people. So I've pretty much seen it all. I was also training during the worst of the HIV epidemic, and during my training, medications for HIV became available. So I actually saw people who saw our AIDS ward close. We had an AIDS ward in the hospital in New York that had about 30 beds that was always full. And during my training, that ward was closed because of effective treatment.
Do you feel that in addition to the treatment, were people becoming more educated about AIDS and HIV/AIDS?
Sure, yeah. As we learned more about it, the public became more educated.
Okay. All right, so let's go ahead and get into some of our topics. And so you've given us your background. Around the turn of the 20th century, there were a couple of major achievements, that had significant impact on human life expectancy. One of those you talked about was the the medications for HIV and AIDS. But what are some other infectious diseases that you have seen where the numbers have been reduced greatly in your course of your practice?
Well, this may be a segue into our topic today, but Haemophilus influenzae type B is a bacteria that can cause deadly meningitis in children. It also causes upper respiratory tract infections, ear infections, and such. That vaccine came out a couple of decades ago, and the amount of Haemophilus influenza type B infections that we see in children now has dropped to incredibly low levels. So that's just one infection. There are many others. The thing about infectious diseases, though, is they're very smart.
Okay.
So we continue to see new infections that have never been described before all the time. And some infections are so smart that they can evade our immune systems, such as HIV or, say, Ebola virus, or certain bacterial diseases have ways to evade our immune system so that we don't develop any immunity to them. So, for example, staph infections.
Okay.
We develop very little immunity to staph infections so that you can get staph infections over and over again. And staph infections can be deadly.
Yes, I'm unfortunately aware, due to some personal experience and other people that I've known having different infections, that you can only treat it basically with antibiotics.
Or surgery, if needed. Yeah.
Yes, sir. And I want to ask about, one of the reasons we've seen some decline is because people have been getting vaccinated. Can you give us a little more background to when vaccinations, really hit the scene, and how long have people, and then has there been an increase in vaccinations?
Vaccination rates have remained fairly stable over the last couple of decades.
Okay.
The first vaccination was for smallpox,
okay.
and that was in the 1700s.
Oh.
And a very, very smart person used a cowpox virus, which caused very mild illness in humans, to what he noticed was that when people were infected with that cowpox, they tended not to get smallpox. And the germ theory of disease had not been developed by this time, so he really didn't realize what was going on. But what he was really doing was vaccinating people against smallpox using a similar virus. Smallpox, by the way, was the first illness that was actually eradicated by vaccination. And that really is the goal of vaccine programs, is to get rid of these illnesses. As you all know, or as many people know, and some people might not know, we don't vaccinate for smallpox anymore because it's gone.
Okay.
We don't see it. And that is the goal of vaccines.
I know that, I just want to state this before we get any further. The thoughts and views expressed are those of our participant and not those of, KLEK, because there are some people that have varying views, and we just want to let them know that we provide this platform for you to share information that can hopefully be beneficial to those that wish to receive it. So I hope that someone takes something away from this interview. We're not trying to sway your way of thinking, and just providing you with information and with the facts.
Sure.
And,
yeah, I understand that too. I'm going to tell my views and hopefully saves a few people's lives.
I mean, you are a doctor and you've dealt with this for multiple years, and so I would trust your opinion over my own, reading some article written by someone that I don't know and can't verify their background. So, we're going to continue on. And so I just wanted to make that known because we have had people, comment, one way or another, and just want to let them know that this is for informational purposes.
Sure.
All right, so moving right along. All right, so what are the benefits, sticking on vaccinations? What are some of the benefits that you've seen, you've researched, you have experienced, throughout your practice? What are the benefits?
One of the wonderful things about medicine is that there's a bit of an art. You gain from experience things that you don't read in textbooks. And in textbooks, we learn about the molecular basis of disease, how things cause disease, what proteins, cells, organs are affected in the human body. And you learn that a drug does this way.
Okay.
What you don't really learn until you see it a lot is nothing's 100%.
Okay.
There are people who get medications, and that medication does a certain thing to a certain molecule and a certain cell and a certain organ, but it doesn't work for that person.
Okay.
So no medication works in 100% of people. The same thing is true of vaccines. Vaccine efficacy, say for the flu, can be as low as 40%, depending on how well the flu vaccine or the flu strains that are predicted by the WHO around the world are included in the vaccine. Other times, that efficacy rate can be up to 75 or 80%. So that, for example, the flu vaccine works because enough people get vaccinated that there aren't enormous numbers of people walking around with the flu. We still have enormous numbers of people walking around the flu. I didn't say that quite right.
Okay.
But not as many as would there be had there not been a vaccination program. Flu kills people every year. Here in Jonesboro, in the hospital, every year I'll see people die from the flu. People who die from the flu are usually very young or very old. But every once in a while, we'll see somebody who's absolutely healthy, no medical risk factors, no illnesses in the past, who will die from the flu. It's a serious illness.
And this is all because they didn't get vaccinated?
Well,
or did they?
They may have become vaccinated, and that's the thing about medicine.
Okay.
Part of it is it's not 100%. But the more people who get vaccinated for the flu, the less people die.
Okay.
So the goal is to vaccinate huge numbers of people so that less of the flu is transmitted. 40% of people who have the flu have no symptoms.
Wow.
But they're contagious. And then they walk into a nursing home to visit grandma and grandpa. And they spread the flu to people who are at risk of having very severe outcomes to the flu. Healthcare workers. Many hospitals across the United States now mandate that if you want to work in a hospital, you have to get vaccinated for the flu just for that reason. Because 40% of people who have the flu don't have symptoms. They don't know that they have it, but they're spreading it.
So would that be why the many health facilities recommend people get vaccinated, simply because someone may not know that they have the virus?
So say the vaccine efficacy rate during a certain flu season is 75%.
Okay.
That means if 100 people get vaccinated, 75 of those people will be protected. 25 won't. The more people who get vaccinated, the more people who are walking around are protected.
Okay.
And that stops large outbreaks that travel across the world and kill tens of millions of people. Those are called pandemics.
Okay.
the last pandemic was many decades ago, but used to have pandemics every decade or so. Many people think that we are way late for having a pandemic, and the pandemic in 1918, 1919, killed 50 million people around the world.
Wow.
Many people believe that the reason we've staved off a pandemic may be flu vaccination. And I can't stress enough how important this is. When 50 million people around the world die, that means hundreds of millions of people are sick, many of whom go to the hospital. That completely overwhelms the healthcare system. The economic and chaos and the death toll of that sort of pandemic is unbelievable. That it's not just people dying of the flu. There's incredible economic consequences. Countries who are low-income countries can't deal with that sort of thing. The United States would be overwhelmed. The healthcare system would be overwhelmed in a pandemic.
Wow. All right. That gives us a lot to think about. I want to say good morning to everyone out there that's listening and watching. If you have any questions or comments, please be respectful and drop them in our comment box on our Facebook Live feed, or give us a call in the studio, 870-277-1080. I want to introduce other diseases that, people get vaccinated for, such as measles, mumps, rubella, chicken pox, things of that nature. So can you give us some insight into maybe when, how those vaccines came about and what the numbers are like now? And
Sure. Varicella used to be an incredibly common illness. Both of my kids are old enough that they weren't around when the varicella vaccine was around, so they both got chicken pox.
okay.
They were kind of sort of a moderate to severe disease, but they came out okay. But chicken pox can be a very severe illness, and in places in which chicken pox is very common, some kids can die every year from chicken pox. It also can have some severe neurologic side effects that can leave people handicapped for the rest of their life.
Chicken pox.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Oh, wow. Okay.
In addition, the chickenpox virus is the same virus that causes shingles in people who are older.
Okay.
So your immunity, once you have chickenpox or are vaccinated, lasts maybe 20, 30, 40, 50 years. And then your immune system sort of forgets that you've seen that virus or the vaccine. And you can get what's a very severe, very painful rash called shingles that can result in nerve damage that causes that area to be extremely and excruciatingly painful for the rest of your life. It can be debilitating. So the goal of the varicella vaccine is to actually eradicate varicella.
Okay.
And if that can happen, shingles will also be eradicated eventually.
So can you give us some insight or advice or suggestions, rather, on when someone, say, I was born in the 70s,
Mm-hmm.
and so I remember getting chickenpox. I was about 11 or 12, so I don't know if I got a vaccine for it. When would you recommend someone, say, in my age bracket or a little older, should we get vaccinated again? Or
So for those of us who had chickenpox, I had chickenpox also. There is a vaccine once you hit 50 to reduce your chances of getting shingles. And I have treated many patients with shingles. It's a horrible, horrible disease. It's also called herpes zoster. I highly recommend getting that vaccine. It's somewhere between 50 and 75% effective. So again, if 100 people get the vaccine and it's 50% effective, 50 people, that will stop 50 people from getting shingles. It will not stop 50 people from getting the other 50 from getting shingles. Stopping 50 out of 100 people from getting shingles is a huge, huge benefit.
Yes, sir. All right, so we're going to get ready for a break in about a minute or so, and I don't want to get too deep into another question, because I don't want us to run out of time and have to stop you in the middle. But definitely when we come back, we'll pick up, pick up the conversation concerning infectious diseases and other things that you have seen, maybe some research that you have conducted in the course of your career. And I would love to hear more, and I hope that everyone out there that's listening takes notes, and makes some informed decisions about what to do with your children and your family, and depending on how you feel one way or the other. I mean, if you're anti, that's, your personal choice. We would not get too deep into that right now. So, but definitely want to encourage everyone to take notes. Talk to your doctor. We say this all the time. We have a medical professional. Stay off WebMD. Stay off the internet. Unless it's go to Google Scholar and look up articles versus just going to Google. But by all means, talk to a doctor face-to-face, one-on-one, to get more information, and don't try to go this alone. I do also want to mention there is an event happening on the campus of Arkansas State University at the Fowler Center in Rison Hall. This is taking place on March 26th. It is the Distinguished Medical Lecture Series, Rhythmic Healing, Music and Medicine. Bowman and Wilson lecture. It will start at 6:30 p.m. I'll make sure to post more information on our Facebook and web page, so please stay tuned to that. We're going to take our first break, and we will be back after these announcements.
You're listening to Community Conversations on KLEK 102.5 FM. We'll be right back.
Is your life running at 212 degrees? I'm Mark Merrill with today's Family Minute. At 211 degrees, water is simply hot water. But when water reaches 212 degrees, it produces steam. And steam is a powerful force that has the ability to move multi-ton trains and boats. Just that one more degree, that one small change, can make a huge difference. You could be just 1 degree away from a breakthrough in a difficult relationship. 1 degree away from a sincere apology to your spouse, 1 degree away from affirming your child, and 1 degree away from a kind gesture to a coworker. Just 1 more degree. Sometimes that's all it takes. Remember, your family first.
Family Minute is made possible by the Kappa Nu Omega chapter of Alpha Kappa Alpha Sorority Incorporated, a non-profit organization committed to service to all mankind. Kappa Nu Omega Alpha Kappa Alpha on Facebook and KNOMEGA1908.com.
Family Minute is brought to you by the Gears Foundation, a non-profit organization providing students with assistance in their academic and career pursuits. Gears Foundation on Facebook, Gears_Inc. on Instagram, and the Gears Foundation at gmail.com.
Support for KLEK is brought to you by...
This is a story I heard my late father-in-law, Glenn Sane, tell many times. Back then, when you ordered a part, you fill out a ticket, and a copy of the ticket would come back with a part with their signature who ordered it. Glenn got a call one day about a part on a rail car up there, and he went and checked it out. His parts ticket was on a school bus chassis with his signature. He missed a number by 1. Instead of a $3 part, he had a complete school bus chassis. Glenn Sane, God bless our troops.
Centennial Bank, member FDIC, is a customer-focused bank that provides a broad range of commercial and retail banking and related financial services to businesses, investors, individuals, and municipalities. Centennial Bank has 9 locations in Northeast Arkansas. 870-268-2300. www.my100bank.com. Edgy Studios, 209 Union Street in Jonesboro, offers photography for portraits, weddings, and engagements, senior portraits, family and maternity shoots, and all occasions. Edgy Studios focuses on photography that is unique and outside of the norm. Owner Andrew Daly is available at 870-243-0308 or www.ejjistudios.com.
House of Details, located at 3915 East Highland in Jonesboro, is a proud supporter of KLEK, offering detailing on any type of vehicle: basic wash, hand wash, shampoo, interior cleaning, waxing, buffering, headlight restoration, pickup, delivery, and more, with a motto of anything mean we can clean. Details at 870-273-5187. House of Details on Facebook and at klekfm.org.
Hello, I'm Officer Victoria Evans. I have always had a desire to help others in need and to be an example and role model to young women by encouraging them to never give up on their dreams. My dream was to become a police officer and to serve my community. In 2016, that dream became a reality, and it is the most rewarding experience of my life. Now I want to let you know about the same opportunity. The Jonesboro Police Department will conduct testing every month for patrol officers. Applications are available online at jonesboropolice.com or at the Police Department, 1001 South Caraway Work. The Jonesboro Police Department offers a competitive salary, health, and retirement benefits, top-of-the-line training, and most importantly, the chance to make a difference in the Jonesboro community. Join me in making Jonesboro a better place. The Jonesboro Police Department is an equal opportunity employer, and women and minorities are especially encouraged to apply. More information is available at 870-935-5657.
And now back to Community Conversations on KLEK 102.5 FM.
Welcome back to Community Conversations on KLEK 102.5 FM. My special guest is Dr. Carl Abraham from NYIT, College of Osteopathic Medicine, on the campus of Arkansas State University. We are going to continue our discussion concerning infectious diseases, and so we've finished up, we ended the segment talking about a few chickenpox in particular, and then wrapped up some other things. But I want to go back to, we talked off air about navigating those medical websites and things of that nature. So give us some do's, don'ts, or and everything in between.
Yeah, I really appreciate that you brought that up. There are good, reliable sources on the internet, and there are some sources that don't sort of validate themselves well enough, and you can tell a good source on the internet that sort of gives references so that you can click links on other sources of information that validate what's on the website. And I think most of the discussion boards, that if you take a look at some of them, you'll find some that sort of require that sort of validation rather than people's opinions. And I think people's opinions are very important, but I've done, and not just me, but I'm not tooting my horn here, it's just that I've done basic science research with cell cultures and different types of procedures in the laboratory that had nothing, that wasn't patient-based. I've done patient-based research where we see whether or not certain treatments work or interventions work. And there are just myriads of medical textbooks to read, and the latest, I think, estimate of the amount of information that comes out in journal articles is something like 10 to 20,000 journal articles a year. That's a lot of information. And you can imagine that if you're not trained, as you try and wade through all of that information, you can very quickly get lost. The same thing happens to patients in the healthcare system.
Okay.
There our healthcare system is incredibly complex. So that if you're a patient that has to go to the hospital, or if you just need to go to your doctor's office, how do you get information that you can understand? And one of my interests is medical system navigation. In other words, if you're not in the medical field, but you have to deal with the medical field, how do you get information to help you make yourself better? How do you get information to get yourself to the right healer? How do you get information to get yourself on the right medicine or off the wrong medicine? Okay. So I think that's an area of study that really needs to be reinforced.
Okay.
People go through our medical system not understanding what's going on, and they could spend a week in the hospital and leave the hospital not understanding what just happened to them over the last week.
I can attest to that, and I also have some friends that have dealt with similar situations. They go in thinking it's one thing, and then they get tested. They go through batteries of tests, and then they still come out with they gave me all this paperwork. And then usually I love seminars, but when you leave, they give you this packet of paperwork, and yes, some of it is the medicines they gave you, the treatments that they gave you, but some of it is still what is this?
I can definitely tell you that I am incredibly impressed at the work and the struggle that healthcare workers have to care for people, and the institutions that we have in our area are amazing. Healthcare is complicated. Yes. We are complicated. As an organism, we are complicated. This is not easy stuff. So, people go to the hospital, and I'll often have this conversation with a patient that my friend told me that this is what's happening, and then my aunt called, I'm on the phone with my aunt, and she says she had this exact same thing. But it's incredibly complicated, and symptoms are complicated. Different diseases can have the exact same symptom, and if you don't know how to tease all of that out, everyone can tell you that they've had exactly the same thing, but they really haven't.
Yes, sir. Oh my goodness, can't tell you how many of those.
And if you're an aunt, I want you to call your relatives. Don't not call your relatives, but. Our healthcare system is incredible. It's too complex. It doesn't do patients any good to get into this system where they have no idea what's gone on over the last week.
Yes, sir. All right, so let's take it back a little to something that you brought up concerning infectious diseases in other countries that are maybe not as developed as others. Yeah. And so what are some areas that you've seen outbreaks of preventable disease? Some infectious diseases can be preventable.
I'm gonna give a plug to our local Rotary, because I'm not a member, but I've spoken there, and they do amazing work. And one of their projects is to eradicate polio around the world. And there are a few pockets left of polio in the world. Vaccination has eradicated polio from much of the world. Polio is an incredibly severe illness. It can be deadly. It can be devastating to those who survive with weakness and pain in an extremity. There's also a syndrome that occurs decades after the infection called post-polio syndrome. Many of you may know an artist named Joni Mitchell, who I'm a huge fan of, who suffered with polio when she was young and suffered terribly with post-polio syndrome when she was older. This disease is preventable and on the brink of being eradicated. Wow. And there are a few areas in Africa and the Middle East in which transmission is still occurring. So we're on the brink of another illness being eradicated. What's going to happen after that illness is no longer seen? Eventually, we won't be giving the polio vaccine anymore, and that is the ultimate goal. The goal for every illness is to decrease the amount. We don't want to see these illnesses again. We don't want to see outbreaks of measles like we're seeing. Children have died.
From measles?
Yes.
And please help me understand. When I was, again, younger, we heard about measles then, and then it seems like it tapered off, and maybe it could just be me being detached from mainstream.
No, well, you did not have. You were vaccinated for measles.
I know I didn't.
Vaccinated for measles. So the outbreaks of measles started in about 2013, 2012. First in Europe and then the United States. There's a long story behind that, and a lot of it has to do with some misinformation and some people who were not so honest about what they were doing. And you can look that up. That story is well known.
Okay.
But measles is another illness that we just don't want to see.
Okay. Can you tell us a little more, just without getting too deep, but tell us how it affects the body or where it maybe shows up?
Sure. It's a rash illness with fever. There's a specific complication of measles called subacute sclerosing encephalopathy. It doesn't happen commonly. Most children after vaccine or even after illness do okay, but again, there's a spectrum of illness. It can be extremely severe, and even without subsclerosing encephalopathy, you can die from measles. It can cause pneumonia and respiratory failure, but specifically subsclerosing or subacute subsclerosing subacute sclerosing encephalopathy is a brain infection with measles that can be fatal. Because we don't see these illnesses much anymore, people don't realize how devastating they can be. And really, when you see a child die of an illness that was essentially preventable, you really have to. Your heart goes out to those families and that child. There's not really a reason for people to still be dying of this illness.
Well, I hope that, again, people listening take notes, talk to your doctor, find out what you can do to prevent your family member from contracting this preventable disease. All right, so we've talked about the flu shot. I want to get into something else that I don't see or hear about it much, but I'm sure you being a doctor, you see whooping cough. And so let's talk about getting tetanus shots, vaccinations, and then concerning whooping cough. What have you seen over the years? How is it? Is it on the rise again, or has it never just gone away?
So it turns out that pertussis actually was on the rise in adults over the last 2 decades. The immunity from the vaccine, it lasts probably 20 to 30 years, maybe longer in some people. Pertussis is whooping cough. In children, it can be an extremely severe disease. And in adults, they don't necessarily get the whoop in the cough, but it can cause a chronic cough and it can cause a respiratory infection. It wasn't until I think the maybe late 1980s or mid 1990s until we recognized that adults were actually coming in with pertussis. So it's recommended to get another booster of pertussis in your teens or early adult years.
Okay. All right, and then let's talk about tetanus shots. How they are similar or different from vaccinations.
Well, they're a vaccination also, and
okay.
They're one of those vaccines that doesn't have any virus in them. We call them recombinant vaccines, and there's just proteins from the bacteria that causes tetanus that stimulates your immune system to create what we call antibodies that latch on to the bacteria if it gets into your body again.
Okay.
So, and the way your immune system works is you have certain types of antibodies. Some of these antibodies, especially the ones that are first made when you've never seen what we call a foreign invader,
okay.
like if you've never had, say, an infection with whooping cough.
Okay.
You'll get whooping cough if somebody if you're exposed to it, and then it takes about 2 weeks or more for your body to start making IgM class antibodies. But after you get over that illness, your body now has memory.
Okay.
And the next time you see that infection, your immune system gets switched on instantaneously. It doesn't have to wait that 2 weeks or 3 weeks, and it will attack that invader and get rid of it immediately before you get the illness. That's why we give vaccines. It's to give you that first boost of immunity so that if you actually see the invader, you immediately have that memory that stops you from getting the infection.
Okay. And I want to ask this, I don't know if this is something we could, really dive into or tackle, probably $1 million question. With the rise of medical techniques and medicines and, how things have improved, of course, since the 1700s and, even in the 1990s, and, a lot of improvements have been made. Is there an extensive amount of research being done to see if it's possible to eradicate viruses with medication? We've heard this bacteria versus virus. Okay, first let's start there.
Sure.
Explain the difference, bacteria versus virus, then we'll get into my kind of question.
Sure. So our body is made up of cells, and those cells have different sort of machines in them.
Okay.
And those machines work together like gears and tubes and all that kind of thing to make the cells do what the cells do to make us into a person.
Okay.
Some cells make acid to break down food in your stomach.
Okay.
Other cells of the immune system make bullets to kill foreign invaders, bacteria and viruses. Your brain cells make electricity and your muscle cells make electricity. And all of that stuff comes from the inner workings, those machines that are inside those cells. Bacteria are smaller than our cells,
okay,
but still have a lot of that machinery, including the genetic information to make all of that machinery, and they can live by themselves outside of the body.
Okay.
Fungus or fungi are the same. They have all of that sort of that inner working. Viruses are different. They're much, much smaller than our cells or bacterial cells or fungal cells. And when they are outside the body, they exist in a state in which that machinery is not working.
Okay.
So they're sort of like little bombs.
Okay.
And if somebody coughs on you, or if somebody shakes your hand, say staph infections, they can give you those bombs. Once inside your body, those little bombs that aren't working outside of the body invade your cells and use your cells' machinery to replicate and make more of them. And once, say you have influenza and you become sick, the goal of that bomb is to spread itself as much as possible. And you'll have trillions of influenza viruses in your body. And when you cough, you can spread that to other people. And when you cough the viruses out, they're not functioning anymore. They're little bombs that are just ready to infect another body. And when they get in your body, they infect your cells, and boom, the whole thing happens again.
Okay, that's an very interesting take on it. It helps me to visualize more of how viruses work. So bacteria, basically, they show up already activated.
They work in our environment, and we didn't think that, say, staph infections were transmitted by tables or towels or things like that, but over the last maybe 30 years, staph has mutated and it's become stronger, and it can now last longer on surfaces, and you can actually get staph from surfaces. Wow. And that's another thing about all of this complexity of medicine. And one of the things that I find so fascinating about infectious diseases is that these bacteria and viruses don't stay the same.
Okay.
They change too, just as we're changing. And they become more virulent. As we come up with therapies for certain types of infections, those infections outsmart us sometimes.
And that ties into the question I think I was trying to ask, with the advancement in medicine, has there been any insight into, basically eradicating or defeating the viruses? But you just basically answered my question saying, because doctors have found and researchers have found ways to tackle what they have access to. It's like the virus is now, okay, I'm going to get 1 step or 10 steps ahead of you again. And so
sometimes, we're doing okay. One of my favorite conversations to have, because this is one that sort of blows people's minds, and
we might have to put that on pause.
Yeah, go right ahead.
We're getting ready for another break, and I don't want you to have to stop in the middle.
Sure.
You're tuned in to Community Conversations on KLEK 102.5 FM. I want to remind everyone that we are in the middle of our spring fund drive. If you love these type of conversations and want to hear more, support KLEK 102.5 FM. Check out our Facebook and website to find out how you can support us. You might become a DJ for a day, depending on your level of donation. But we'll be right back after these announcements.
You're listening to Community Conversations on KLEK 102.5 FM. We'll be right back.
We're back with Money Matters. I'm Alfred Edmond Jr. The third African American Financial Experience Survey has been released by Prudential Research, offering important insights about how you may feel about your financial situation and how you're handling your money matters. Consider these key survey findings. Caregiving responsibilities can include substantial time and financial commitments, spending more than 20 hours a week on caregiving tasks. Financial planning and smart money management is doubly important for caregivers as it is for others, as they must plan for the present and future financial needs of those they care for while not neglecting the same needs for themselves. It is critical for caregivers to reach out for help from financial planners, insurance professionals, and other experts in the financial services industry to help them develop and implement a plan for their financial security. I'm Alfred Edmond Jr. for Money Matters, a product of American Urban Radio Networks.
Money Matters is made possible by the Jonesboro Alumni Chapter of Delta Sigma Theta Sorority Incorporated, a nonprofit organization focused on joy in our sisterhood, power in our voice, and service in our hearts. www.jonesboroalumnidst.org.
Money Matters is brought to you by the Gears Foundation, a nonprofit organization providing students with assistance in their academic and career pursuits. Gears Foundation on Facebook, Gears_Inc. on Instagram, and the Gears Foundation gmail.com.
Money Matters is brought to you by Bancorp South, offering checking, savings, loans, credit cards, and wealth management. 5 locations in Jonesboro to serve you. www.bancorpsouth.com or 870-972-9800.
KLEK's Spring Fund Drive is March 18th through the 20th. Help us reach our goal of 100 new supporters donating at least $20 a month and 25 new business sponsors underwriting at least $150 a month by donating a thank you gift today. We will pass your gift on to listeners who donate during the fund drive. No donation is too small or too weird. If you have a unique gift or service you'd like to donate, find the form at our website, klekfm.org, and click on Fund Drive.
KLEK thanks CJ Pepper and the staff of Life Strategies Counseling Incorporated for helping people through hard times in life such as depression, family issues, stress, abuse, and more. They offer counseling and therapy for all ages, individuals, families, and groups. They are located at 1217 Stone Street. Phone number 1-866-972-1268 or online at lscihelp.com.
Starks Auto Plaza at 2829 Red Wolf Boulevard is a proud KLEK supporter, offering luxury pre-owned vehicles sold wholesale to the public. At Starks, we never say no. 870-203-9980. Details at starksautoplaza.com.
The Mu Omicron Lambda chapter of Alpha Phi Alpha Fraternity Incorporated was established on January 1st, 1977, originally serving Blytheville, Arkansas, and now serving Jonesboro, Blytheville, Osceola, Marion, and West Memphis, Arkansas. Today, the chapter continues to make an impact by focusing on Alpha's national community outreach initiatives such as My Brother's Keeper, A Voteless People is a Hopeless People, Go to High School, Go to College, Project Alpha, Boy Scouts, and the March of Dimes. The Mu Omicron Lambda chapter of Alpha Phi Alpha Fraternity Incorporated is committed to Alpha's mission of developing leaders, promoting brotherhood and academic excellence, while providing service and advocacy to the community. More information about the Mu Omicron Lambda chapter of Alpha Phi Alpha Fraternity Incorporated is available at MOL Alphas on Facebook or via email at molalphas@gmail.com.
KLEK is starting a new fundraiser which will allow listeners to donate to KLEK while buying groceries. KLEK is a part of the Kroger Community Rewards fundraising program. When shoppers visit a participating Kroger and scan his or her Kroger Plus shoppers card, a portion of the savings goes back to KLEK to help keep it on the air. Details on how to sign up for the program are available at KrogerCommunityRewards.com and at klekfm.org. This is a KLEK fundraiser.
And now back to Community Conversations on KLEK 102.5 FM.
Welcome back to Community Conversations on KLEK 102.5 FM. My special guest today is Dr. Carl Abram, MD from NYIT, College of Osteopathic Medicine on the campus of Arkansas State University. I hope that you all have been enjoying this conversation and, taking away some good points and just taking a look at your own beliefs and making some decisions that's best for your family. Again, we can't tell you what to do, how to do, but Dr. Abraham has, given you insight into why it's important to get vaccinated, how beneficial it can be. Again, we're not trying to sway your decision, just trying to present you with the facts, from his experience and his expertise in your research. So I hope people are taking something away from this conversation.
Well, I think the area of vaccine research is incredibly exciting. There are people who are working on vaccines for herpes, staph infections, Ebola, malaria, and of course HIV. I think when you think about the impact of these illnesses in low-income countries, and who don't have the healthcare infrastructure in the first place or the resources to deal with the numbers of people who are sick. The HIV epidemic has left it has killed tens of millions of people and left millions of orphans in sub-Saharan Africa. An HIV vaccine, if that could have been prevented, malaria kills an incredible number of people every year. Preventing that, that's incredibly exciting. I mean, it's a tragedy. That illness is a tragedy. and preventing those deaths, that's incredibly encouraging and exciting.
Wow. All right. And again, if you'd like to do more research, talk to your doctor first, and hopefully they can guide you to some great resources. And again, as Dr. Abraham mentioned, if you do try to take it on your own, look for articles that have links to other resources. Look for those credible. Is there a way to, if someone's going on the website, would it be on the internet? Is there a difference in .com, .org, .edu concerning medical advice? I use the word very loosely.
No, you don't. Not necessarily. I think the difficulty is acquiring some expertise, and I'm not in any way saying that I'm the expert in vaccines. There is so much research on each one of these illnesses that you could spend, a couple of years on each one of them. There is so much research on the different medicines to treat them. There is so much research on the epidemiology. In other words, where do these illnesses occur? Why do they occur? How do they get from person to person? How can we stop that from happening? There is just so much to read. And, I also sort of practice this thing called mindfulness.
Okay.
And one of the things that you do in mindfulness is when you've got something to say, you keep your mouth shut. And you think for a little while before something comes out of your mouth, because once it leaves your mouth, it's out there, it's permanent, it can be incredibly hurtful. So hold off, wait a little bit before you open your mouth. That's the same thing. It's if you've got something to learn about, take your time to learn about it. And because of the amount of things there are to learn about this stuff, it's going to take you a long time to really learn everything there is to learn before you can become enough of an expert to say, I understand statistics.
Okay. All right. And before we have like 2.5 minutes, I want to still give you time to get your story in that we didn't get to. We had to cut it off for winter break. So do you have time to tell your story?
No, I think in 2 minutes is probably not enough to talk about. I think there are a lot of misconceptions about infectious diseases. I think there are a lot of misconceptions about medicine and medical care.
Okay.
I think we're lucky enough to live in a community where we have, especially a charitable hospital who really looks out for what they feel or what is best for the community. We've got a medical school now that is going to drive the quality of medicine in this area to even greater heights. When you've got students who are up on the, and I'm incredibly proud of our students. They are an amazing group. They are up on a subject that you haven't read about in a little while, and they're standing right in front of you and say, but Dr. Abraham, it's time for me to get back to the books. So do your studying. There's a lot of studying to do. The smarter that you are, the more you know and the more you can help.
All right. Well, we thank you so much for joining us, Dr. Abraham. And even though he's sitting to the side, I want to thank Mr. Casey for bringing us professionals from the NYIT College of Osteopathic Medicine, it's a mouthful, and sharing this wonderful information with us. And I hope to have more professionals come through because I love to do a lot of health issue advocacy. And so I hope that people are taking something away from these conversations.
Yeah, me too. And I'll be glad to come back and talk about other things because there's a lot to talk about in infectious diseases.
All right. Well, thank you. I just want to let everyone know that these radio station will be off the air for a little while. We have some individuals working on our tower, so don't be dismayed. We will be back on in a couple of hours. So thank you for tuning in to Community Conversations. Hope everyone has a great and blessed day. We'll see you tomorrow at 9 a.m.
They can still hear everything being streamed.
Yes.
Yes.
All right. Thank you so much.
Thank you for listening to Community Conversations on KLEK 102.5 FM, a program focusing on the people working to make the Jonesboro community a better place while offering viewpoints from all sides of the issues.